Wow, that's big. All right. Welcome to the Sharp Mind Show, episode 45. I'm Nate, your host, the Fit Future MD. Make sure you shop at answersale.com. Pick you up a cool, inspirational t shirt today. All right, let's get started. So, I was watching a video the other day, and a guy basically went back to China um, and was basically describing his experience back in China, right? And he was asking the local people, the people that drive you around, the local shops, so they have coffee shops and stuff like that. And he was basically asking them, like, well, how is China doing since they put on these tariffs, right? And basically the people were like, well, China's been in a recession since 2019, since before COVID, right? So, and that got me to thinking, it's like, well, why? And then he goes on to explain why the Chinese economy is actually in a recession. So basically, what's been happening in China, so we have all these factories in China, right? Well, they have been replacing Chinese workers with automation. Same thing they've been doing in the US, right? So a factory that used to need 500,000 workers, he was basically saying they only need 20,000 workers, right? So that's basically put the Chinese economy in a recession because the manufacturer of the automation stuff, robots, whatever, are keeping more of the money, and the people of China are not getting the money, right? So that got me to thinking about, well, what is our policy right now as tariffs, right? To uh, try to keep more money in the U.S. And you got to start thinking about stuff like everything's going to end up being automated, right? Basically. And you have to figure out, where do you want the automation to occur, right? Do you want the automation to occur on foreign soil, would that be China, India, Guatemala, Mexico, Canada, or do you want that automation to be happening inside the United States, right? Um, and so that's basically the side that you're on, right? And so you can make the argument that obviously factories give off pollution. You give off pollution in the U.S. You see what's happened with, like, GE has factories that they can't even use because the ground is so polluted. Stuff like that. You saw like a movie like Aaron Brockovich, where everybody's getting cancer around the facility, stuff like that. Um, but basically, it goes down to, do you want the stuff to be produced in a different country, or do you want to be produced here? But it's still automation, so it's not. So many people think that, like, bringing factories back here is going to make there be more jobs. And yes, there will be some jobs created, right, to take care of the automation, right? The only way uh, for American companies to compete is to have automation, is to have robots doing the work, right? So the basic question then becomes, do you want to be the one taking care of the robots here as a job, or do you want to be the one that uh, goes broke because there are no jobs anyway, right? Because automation is basically going to take care of everything. And, the jobs are basically going to be creating the automation, or um, taking care of the automation service, right? So just my morning thought on that. I thought it was interesting that the Chinese believe they, have been in a recession since 2019, where, most of the media would say that China's been running up on the U.S. Well, if they're both coming down, they're both sinking, I guess. I don't know. But inflation has definitely hit the American people hard. Things that used to cost, you know, used to have plenty of budget left, even with a lower salary. Now things are well above what people are making. So keep that in mind. Choose which way you want to go. Which way would you go, right? Like, would you want the automation to be in the US? Or you want the automation to be somewhere else? Do you think it would over pollute things to have the automation come back to the US? If you take away regulations, does that make it even worse? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This episode's brought to you by London and the Googly Goo, which is my wife's children's book. If you have nieces, nephews, or children of your own, be sure to pick up London and the Googly Goo. All right. So now, for some reason, in my feed, I get a lot of relationship stuff, right? And mostly it's like, you know, so this recent one, I saw that even if you find a good man, don't marry him, right? Even if you find a good man, don't marry him. And so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And then there's other ones, obviously, that are like, where can you actually find a good man? Is there a good man even out there? Blah, blah, blah. And like I say, there's this big, deep call right now not to get married. And like I said, I just talked about a little bit about the economy, but there's literally no, like, getting married is the cheat code in the US economy, right? Um, and it's either way you do it, right? So if you do it where the man is the only one working and the woman stays home with the children, that type thing, it's still a cheat code, because if you have two children or more, that's $2,000 a month in childcare, right? If you're a significant other, either way, so whether the male stays home or the female stays home, um, it's still $2,000 a month that you're not having to spend, right? And so just that right there makes it a cheat code, right? So if you're doing this by yourself, single parent, you know, and a lot of people are saying basically that, if they're going to do it separate because the system sets it up to be separate, right? The system has basically made it where if you're married, they're not basically adjusting where you get assistance, where you qualify for Medicaid, where you qualify for, vouchers for daycare, or assistance for housing, that kind of thing. But the whole point of being in America is to do well. Like, there's no reason to be in America and do bad, right? Um, and to me, being married is a cheat code, right? Um, and it's been shown over and over and over again. Even if you just purchased a house and sold it every 2 years, right? Because you're going to be paying that amount anyway, right? Rent's going to be coming up to meet the mortgage rate very soon, right? It's already there in anything new being built, right? Everything's $2,000 a month or more, right? So that mortgage rate's going to end up at 2,500, and the rent is going to end up at 2,500, right? In most areas, I'm in North Carolina, right? So, but basically everything's going to come up to meet each other eventually, right? It's going to level out, right? Very rarely do you have this last a long time, right? Just recently, it's been where the mortgage has been down here and the rent's been up here, so people were buying, and then that kind of thing. But so just that tax, right? Just the tax write-off of being married, where you sell and you can make $500,000 tax free, is a cheat code, number one. But what I really came here to say is that there's certain times that you meet your significant other, right? And so many people are worried about meeting the significant other, when they need to be worried about, am I the best that I can be? Right? Because you're going to attract a partner that is equivalent to how good you are, whether that be the way you look, the way you act, the way you dress, the way you talk, how smart you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Before I met my wife, I met so many women that were just the ha 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 women. I don't know how else to describe them. Um, but they just did not have what I was looking for, uh, mentally, talking wise, whatever. Right. And of course, I met my wife, and automatic, it clicked. Right. She was able to hold a conversation. She was interested in everything I was talking about. Um, Even if she had never heard of it before. Right. We had a session where just we listened to country music because she never grew up around country music. Right. Stuff like that. She probably doesn't really even like country music, but but I go at this to say, like, if you're having a hard time finding a relationship, concentrate on being the best version of yourself. Concentrate on your mindset, your skill set, and your habits. Right. And of course, you got to find people that are like minded. So if you want to be in a relationship, you want to get married, you want to be loyal to somebody for a long time, you have to find like minded people that are going to believe in that. Usually you do find that at church, right? Just throwing that out there. But I did not find my wife in a church. So keep that in mind. But it's just crazy that there's this big, huge push about not wanting to get married. Um, like, you just want to go out here and just do life on your own by yourself. Like, that's cool. But there's very few people in this world that can just make it on their own. Like, most people are not built to be by themselves forever, right? And so just keep that in mind. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I keep seeing this over and over and over again. Like, don't get in a relationship, don't get married, that kind of thing. I'm like, no, I don't believe in that. I believe 100% that, uh, even if you completely mess it up, should still try. That's what I believe. And hopefully you believe it too. Let me know in the comments down below. I may just be saying that because I'm lucky enough to have the best wife ever, right? So keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, and this goes with a question, right? What story do you want your kids or future family to tell about how you handled money, right? So you see this a lot, right? You see, if you look through history, you'll see people that came up, they made it in capitalism, and then by the third generation, all the money's gone, right? Um, and then you mostly see everybody that's failed at capitalism, or weren't left with anything, right? So when you go to design your life, you design your legacy. uh what do you want to leave behind, right? And of course, I think about this, uh being the provider of my family. um what happens to me when I'm gone, right? What happens to my family when I'm gone? So number one thing I realized, like I say, yesterday, I talked about what I learned from the beat shop. I learned that entrepreneurs are actually the ones that are rich and stuff like that. But um, basically, learned that to leave a legacy, you have to invest, right? So um, that is basically going to be the story. Like, hey, from the time I was born to the time I turned 18 years old, I put $100 a month into a brokerage account for my daughters, right? and I basically will make them millionaires before they even turn 18. Now, you could say, well, that's going to hurt them or that's going to help them. There's glass half full, glass half empty people, right? But I'm going to know that I did my part into helping them succeed. And hopefully, by spending time with them and by teaching them and molding them, that they'll know how to manage that money once they are allowed to have the money at 18 years old, right? But I thought, nonetheless, I went to college on a wing and a prayer. If they go to college, if college is even a thing in 18 years, don't know if it's going to be a thing, at least they'll have the money to go, right? So if tuition's 20 grand a year, they can, for the community college at the time, whatever it is, they'll actually have the money to go, right? Or if they want to be a musician or a painter or all these professions that very few people are paid well, and a lot of people struggle for many, many years, right? Like say you think about, let's say I just saw a post, it was R.L. Stein's birthday, right? My man was 85 years old. His books took off when I was a kid, 4 or 5 years old, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, right? So that means he was in his 50s before his books took off. Can you imagine writing from the time you were 16, 15 years old till you were in your 50s before you even get noticed enough to be published? It's pretty crazy, right? So imagine if you could give that to your kid. Your kid wants to be a writer, so that's the kind of legacy that I want to leave, right? If you want to learn how to set up that kind of legacy, sign up for life coaching in the description below. It's $2,000 for the year. Most life coaches charge $150 an hour, spend a few hours with you and you never see them again, where they charge you every time you call them for a question. That's not how it works for me. I'm going to have you for a year. And if I don't make you better in a year, then you get the $2,000 back, right? So sign up for life coaching today. It's a no hassle. Was it? Anyway, 100% money back guaranteed, right? So, all right. And the last thing is the quote of the day. Won't make this one long, but says, even when everything is stripped away, purpose never leaves you. It just whispers louder. So basically, you can have everything taken from you. You can start from the bottom, walk into a beach shop, $300,000 in debt. But the purpose never went away, right? So if you're out there, you're struggling to find your purpose, that's one thing. But once you found your purpose, there's nothing that can stop you. So even if you falter all the way to the bottom, it's going to be okay. You're going to pick yourself back up because your purpose never leaves you. You still have that same purpose, right? My purpose is still to help people. That's why I became a life coach. So that purpose is just going to whisper louder and harder. You learn a lot more. Trust me, you learn a lot more on the way down than you do on the way up, right? So keep that in mind. I'm Nate, and I'm a life coach. If you're interested in life coaching, obviously sign up in the description below. Shop at InstaSell.com. Pick up a cool inspirational t-shirt. Pick up my wife's book, London and the Googly Goo, and we'll see you in the next. Peace. Yes.